Story time. So probably about 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, this guy comes in, and all of a sudden I look at the labels, and I'm like, oh crap, it's Greg La Follette. Because I never met you before, and I didn't, and so it's kind of like, oh, he's a legend. And so Tristan and I sit down to do the tasting with Greg, and he busts out some new releases, some of the wines we have here today, and so it's like, oh, how's it going? Da, da, da. We're talking, hanging out, whatever. And then Greg starts talking. He starts preaching the gospel. He starts spreading mad, crazy information.
Amen, brother.
Basically 10 years of education, North Coast Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, wine history, boom, in about 20 minutes. And he just basically left Tristan and I here in the office going, like, what happened? Like, we just got hit by a truck. But one thing we did manage to say to Greg before he left was, you need to come back and we need to do this again, but on camera. And Greg was like, okay, I'll do it. And sure enough, as guy made little green apples,
yep,
the man's back like 3-4 weeks later, which is awesome. So Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Kyle.
Sincere pleasure having you here and talking about La Follette, talking about Pinot Noir, talking about Chardonnay. But what I want to talk about is how crappy once in a while the wine business can be to you. The labor of love aspect of what you do. Because I don't think people get a grip. I don't think they understand. All they see is this.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
They taste it, they go, wow, La Follette Chardonnay, Manchester Ridge Chardonnay. Well, this is nice, this is delicious. God, I love this wine. But the Manchester Ridge part, for example, on this wine, is a different story unto itself.
Yeah, it's a whole new paradigm for American Chardonnay for a lot of important reasons. This particular wine comes from a brand new AVA called the Mendocino Ridge AVA. It was the first AVA that ever existed that within its boundaries, not all of the land was available to be part of the AVA because it's both elevation and closeness to the ocean. And for this particular vineyard, it's particularly daring. When I built a winery called Flowers and planted most of the vines there, I planted that one ridge in from the ocean to have protection from all that cool weather that comes down from the Gulf of Alaska. And I planted it at 1,100 feet on an average basis to be above the coastal fog, which is really important. Well, go another 2.5 hours further north on the coast. And
North's colder, right?
North's colder, you bet. And especially when you get beyond Point Arena, which is where this is. And then go the ridge on the ocean so that you're looking down at the water and you don't have any protection. And then go twice as high so that you're at 2,200 feet. You're not only above the low coastal fog, you're above the low coastal clouds.
And just to rewind, you had your issues with flowers, right? With ripening to begin with occasionally.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
Okay, so moving forward, you already got issues where you were at. Now you're like double-decker in it.
Yeah, exactly. So a wine like this, every year you can't make a vineyard designate here. Only 1 or 2 out of every 3 years can I make a vineyard designate either of the Chardonnay or the Pinot Noir. And the other years, it's good enough to go into coastal program, or perhaps this year we're doing a little bit of a sparkling wine project, so we'll be able to get the wine from that just fine. But it's a very dicey proposition. In fact, it's so dicey that Manchester Ridge LLC that planted this actually went bankrupt. They could not they lost it. Every year they couldn't make, and a lot of years it just dissolved away into nothingness with rot and the coolness and didn't ripen. So now the Piper family that originally had the land are farming it, and they are not farmers, they're loggers. So I'm up there quite a bit doing a lot of leafing. In fact, for last year, it bloomed about July 2nd. And that's one of the latest blooming places you can imagine. This year, it fortunately bloomed June 3rd or 4th. So for my Father's Day, some of my 6 kids went up with me. We camped out up at Camp Meeting Ridge because it's a 3¼ hour drive. Right. The last 45 minutes is a logging road that you can only use with a 4-wheel drive. Yeah. And so during the day, I had the kids doing a special leafing technique to try to get the vine to stop thinking about making more lumber and to start repartitioning its carbohydrate resources from leaf and cane growth into reproductive growth, making more yummy, and colorful berries so that They can attract birds and fulfill that ancient biblical command of being fruitful and multiplying.
Right.
Much as my wife and I've done with 6 kids. So really, all I'm trying to do is speak the vine's language. And this is all about reproduction, right?
Right.
So if you can go there and speak that language, then you can get the vines to stop saying, okay, we're just going to grow canes and leaves, and start saying, we're going to do this very expensive proposition of ripening our berries and getting color and flavor up there. And the reason why vines don't want to do that is because it's twice as expensive to ripen grapes as it is to produce a cane with leaves on it.
To the vine, when you say expensive, resources.
Yeah, right. And the vine wants to do canes because you're only 1 gram of photosynthate, 1 gram of carbohydrate, is roughly what it takes to produce 1 gram of cellulose, which is the building blocks for canes and leaves. But there's a lot of cheese at the end of that tunnel because you're also making leaves that make even more photosynthesis, even more, I think. And the other thing too is that you can produce tendrils, which means that the vines can out-climb your neighbors and out-compete and get more sunlight. And you can also lay a cane down and you can root and produce another baby vine asexually. It roots on its own. So, and to produce a gram of color in a berry, that takes 2 grams of carbohydrate, 2 grams of photosynthate. The beautiful floral aromas we're getting in here, that's another 2 gram for 1 proposition. So why would a grapevine want to do anything as foolish as produce berries when it can get everything else that it wants just from the vegetative strategy?
It's like so much more work producing fruit. It's like, I'm a vine, I'm like, God, I'm tired.
Exactly. So,
Greg, stop.
Yeah. So what you got to do is you got to get the vine to start saying, hey guys, things are a little bit tough here. There's not enough nitrogen or not enough water, whatever it is that's limiting. Get the vine to be under a little bit stress. So it starts saying, okay, we got to quit this lumber production and start repartitioning our carbohydrate resources into making these riper, more flavorful berries. And at the same time too, you're also going to get all of this flavor at a much earlier point, time-wise, so that you can pick the grapes earlier, which up here is an absolute must. Because come the 3rd week of October, you're usually starting to get rain, and by the 1st week of November, we've usually had 10 to 12 inches up there. This particular vineyard can maybe suffer through 1 or 2 rains, but that's about it. Picking up here is really easy. The picking decision, it's basically, okay, we've gone through 1 rain, can we make it through the next one? No, let's pick.
Run!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Run away. Yeah.
Okay. Good Lord. Did you get that? Okay.
Yeah.
That is what's in here. Okay. That's just part of the process that goes into this. How do you spend? Is it twice the time as a conventional vineyard? Maybe down in the Russian River Valley or something like that, with regards to vineyard work, with regards to.
Well, it's a lot more effort.
A lot more, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say twice as much because I do I grow grapes and make wine in some very, very cool sites.
Right.
The Petaluma Gap, the San Giacomo Roberts Road.
Yeah.
And the highest vineyard on Sonoma Mountain, the Vanderkamp Vineyard, which is actually one of the oldest Pinot Noir vineyards in Sonoma County. And those also take extra time and care. Fortunately, I've got really, really great partners. The Vanderkamp family, they've been farming that for 2 generations now. Nobody farms better than the Vanderkamps. The San Giacomos, they've been farming for 80 years in Sonoma County. So I've got great farming partners there.
Perfect segue, the Vanderkamp Vineyard. It's almost like you've done this before. That was amazing. Thank you, by the way. What I want to talk about real quick too, because I think we have a few minutes, is old vines.
Oh yeah.
Impact of old vines on the quality of the wine.
Well, that's what we've got here, and here, don't bogart here.
No, I'm
there you go.
I got your back.
There you go. Thanks. Okay, so this contains still some old vine material from the 1950s that were planted. We don't even know what the clone is from those. And we've got stuff that's been planted in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Vanderkamp Vineyard was actually planted as a sparkling wine vineyard in the 1950s. And Martin Vanderkamp had his Vanderkamp champagne cellars in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And his son Ulysses has now taken over. And so the old vines in here, some years they're not the best, other years they're really good. But they really know their business. They only grow up so far, and then they stop. And they crop pretty evenly. They don't, you don't have to discipline them a lot. They don't get unruly. They kind of know exactly what they're doing. And old vine versus young vine. Young vine is kind of like when, because I've got 6 kids at different ages. When a kid's really young, when you take them backpacking, you can put the Dora the Explorer little backpack on your daughter and have her trudge along, and you can really enjoy her youthfulness and just her energy about life is just a wonderful thing. And that's the same thing with young vines. They just have this youthful energy to them that's going on. And as the vines get mature, it's like your teenage kid, you can, start maybe to get in their 20s. They can carry that full Kelty pack and carry all the gorp and everything else that's in there too. And you can really enjoy their strength and their vitality at that point. And they can be a real backbone of what you're doing. When a vine gets old, it may not yield as much. It can't carry as much crop. But there is something really beautiful about old vine, that it really knows what it's doing. And it has a great way of conserving and speaking its words that really make you sit down and listen. But you have to sit down and listen. You can't just be looking for something showy like blah, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And these old vines here really give that. They give a subtleness and an elegance to this wine that you just can't find from the young vines. And that's what I love about old people, especially since I'm getting there now myself. The wisdom, the grace that sits there and that's encapsulated in that, versus the youth. You need it all. You need the whole population, and that's what the Vanderkamp has. It has everything.
So the old vines give it those extra layers.
Yeah, and some finesse and grace to it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more of a story to tell in this wine, and that's one of the really beautiful things about a wine like this, is it's got layers of complexity, and it has a lot of things to say, including the 5% Pinot Meunier that's in here, which is done full-on carbonic maceration to lift the edges of the aromatic envelope. It's really a lot of fun to put something like that in there. Plus, it's the only job that my kids have really fought to do, the treading, rather than scrubbing barrels and tanks. Yeah, right. The foot treading. Yeah.
Do you think beyond Vanderkamp, you think there's potential for other top Pinot Noir vineyards in Sonoma Mountain? Is the place special, or part of it just the clones and the old vines kind of working together with what's there right now?
Oh, there's no doubt it's a very special place. But there are other vineyards up there that the old Wolf's Pierre vineyard that was planted in the 1960s is a wine that I worked on that actually won California State Fair Best Wine of Show, Best Wine in the State. That was part of the Wolf's Pierre vineyard up on top of Sonoma Mountain, not quite as high. The old Steiner vineyard had some great Pinot there.
Steiner, yeah.
The Silver Pines vineyard makes some, and that's at about 1,600 feet. That makes some really great wine that I used to do with Tandem, and that Joel Aiken, who's a BV for 28 years, is now making. So there's really a lot of potential up there. But the potential is all on the western side of the mountain, because that's the side that gets all that cold weather coming up from Petaluma Gap. Once you get cross that zenith from the north side and you start moving east, well, you're at Glen Ellen and the Campbell Vineyard that made a lot of great Cabernets. You can't really ripen Cabernet on the west side of Sonoma Mountain. You have to go on the east side, overlooking the Valley of the Moon. And there you get temperatures close to 100 degrees. But north facing and on the west side, you're lucky if you get above 90 degrees. So it'll be 10 to 15 degrees cooler up there on the north or northwest facing side as opposed to the eastern side of the mountain. That's Pinot country.
Did you guys get all that? How crazy is this? Is this the coolest stuff? I'm a wine dork. I'm in heaven right now. Greg, thank you for swinging by today, man. This was...
Kyle, it's been my pleasure,
Nice.
and keep up the great work bringing wine to the people, because you know what that means. Crazy guys like me get a chance to do what we really love to do. And so all you out there, keep buying wine and buy it from Kyle.
So by me selling wine, you get to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive 3 hours out to a vineyard that may or may not ripen, work there all day in the sun, and then drive back?
Darn tootin'.
Okay, well, exactly. I want to keep doing that for you, because I mean, if that's what you're into, okay, great. Okay, fine, I'll keep selling it.
But I get to do it with my kids and my wife. So.
Okay, there you go, warm fuzzies. Okay, you got me.
Right.
Call me insensitive. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
Bye.